the scripture assiduously. And he kept notes, very, very detailed notes, which later, when he went to Vrindavan, he entrusted to Sanatan Goswami and made this request. Some things he wrote, and it was considered to be his authorship. But Hari Bhakti Vilas, have you heard that title? Hari Bhakti Vilas? It's like a how-to manual, really thick. BBT is working on its translation and publication for ISKCON consumption. He took that manuscript, the how-to manual, gave it to Sanatan Goswami and asked him, put it in a form for the Vaishnava's use, but I have one request. Don't mention my name. This was Gopal Bhatta's mood. He liked serving the Vaishnavas, and he liked doing from the background. He didn't like being in the foreground. Now, some people, it's the other way around. But Gopal Bhatta was like that. And he also made very, 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 very careful notes. He studied Srimad Bhagavatam inside out, up, down, sideways, forwards, backwards, everything. Very, very detailed. And he kept notes on not just verse by verse, but topic by topic. Very detailed notes, according to all that he had heard for 4 months with Lord Chaitanya. Although he was just 10, remember, he's an eternal associate. He had a special capacity to understand and made essentially a commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam based upon subject matter. And when he reached Vrindavan, he gave that manuscript to Jiva Goswami and requested him to put it in a publishable form with one request. Don't mention my name. So Jiva Goswami didn't mention his name. He just indirectly said, one learned Vaishnav, Bhatta, he didn't say Gopal Bhatta, has given me this assignment. And so in service to him, I'm doing this. It's right in the Mangalacharana section of the Sandarbhas. So that's what the Sandarbhas are. This exquisite composition by Jiva Goswami largely is attributed to Gopal Bhatta from those 20 years that he spent having 4 months with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So when he reached Vrindavan, already Rupa and Sanatan had been put on notice that very soon Gopal Bhatta will come and I want you to look after him like he's your younger brother. And so when he reached Vrindavan, they were so happy to see him, they sent a messenger. They didn't have text messages, they had Brahman messengers. A Brahmana messenger went back to Jagannath Puri to inform Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that Gopal Bhatta has arrived. And Lord Chaitanya was so happy because remember, it was Lord Chaitanya came there when he was 24, 25. 10 years passed, so add 10 to 24, 25, and you're getting close to the end of Lord Chaitanya's life. So Lord Chaitanya sent the messenger back with 3 gifts. One of them was a wooden plank. You know, South Indian Brahmins sit on hardwood, low to the ground plank. There's a name for it. And some upper garment, the uttariya cloth that he was wearing, and some kopans. And sent them with the Brahmin to give as a gift to Gopal Bhatta. And Gopal Bhatta, those articles are still there in the Radharman temple. They don't like to show them because they haven't deteriorated, although it's 500 years. Cloth usually deteriorates, but they keep it very carefully preserved. I haven't seen it, but I have known devotees that have seen it. And then the wooden platform is there. You can see that. You want to do the garland ritual?
Yes, actually, forgot. Can you go?
Okay, thank you. Hare Krishna. Very fragrant garland. Who made the garland? No, put the light out. Put the light out. So Lord Chaitanya sent this gift, and the place for Gopal to reside was Nidhuvan, or Nidhivan. It's an area in Vrindavan where it is known that Krishna and Radha would perform rasa dance. Nidhivan or Nidhuvan. Nice place. Not far from where Jiva Goswami stayed at Radha Damodar temple. Very simple. And he did some intimate service for Rupa and Sanatan Goswami. After some time, news came that Lord Chaitanya had left this world. He was about 34, and he was attached to Lord Chaitanya, and he cried and he cried and he cried. Lord Chaitanya appeared to him in a dream and said, if you want my association, you will go to take a pilgrimage to Nepal, to the Mandakini River. So he did that, following the instruction within the dream. And when he went, there's different versions of this, but as he was taking water from the river in his vessel, some Shilas jumped into the vessel for bathing, and he removed them, and one version says 3 times. He ended up with 12 Shalagram Shilas who wanted to be worshipped by him. So he just took that as a sign. He should just say yes. He was feeling not qualified, because that's his Vaishnava humility, but they were wanting him to worship. So he brought the deities back, the Shalagram Shilas back, and he worshipped them every day, because he already knew how to do. That's this image here. He knew how to worship. And as he would travel about, sometimes he would go here and there, and he kept the deities with him all the time in a cloth tied in the corners and hanging from his neck. Sometimes devotees wonder, what should I do when I'm away from home, and how do I worship my deity? Well, his deity were Shalagram Shilas. He just took them with him. This is part of the tradition of South Indian Brahmins. And he worshipped very, very, very nicely. Then some time passed, and one wealthy merchant came to visit Vrindavan. He was very moved by the Goswamis of Vrindavan, and he offered each one of them some valuable cloth and ornaments and jewels to decorate their deity. And when he came to do the same for Gopal Bhatta, he said, I just have Shilas, I can't use these things, so you can give them to someone. And the man insisted and insisted and insisted, so he kept the gift. Then on the eventful Nrsimha Chaturdasi evening, he was doing his evening worship, offering a prayer in his mind to the deity, if you so desire, I would like to be able to use these gifts offered by this merchant in service to you. So if you can make some arrangement for that, that would be very wonderful. And he took rest. In the morning, he went to the Jamuna River to take his morning bath. When he came back, his practice was the shilas were kept in a basket. And as he was getting ready to do his morning puja, one of the shilas was missing because he had 12 and there was only 11. So he was confused what happened. He was very, very careful, didn't misplace one of them. And then he saw the deity of Radha Raman. And then he realized this Radha Raman is his Damodar Shila that just manifested as Radha Raman. So he quickly sent a message to Rupa and Sanatan. And they were ecstatic, and they came and saw the deity. And there's this famous statement, different deities, Gopinath, the face of Gopinath looks most like Krishna. The broad chest and the body of Govinda looks most like Krishna. And the legs of Madan Mohan look most like Krishna. But Radharaman looks most like Krishna, all parts of his body. That was their statement. And they gave the name Radharaman. And from that day forward, for the rest of his life, Gopal Bhatta worshipped Radharaman. And we heard this afternoon, one of the two principal disciples of Gopal Bhatta, one of them was, who? Srinivasacharya. Srinivasacharya. And then another was Gopinath Pujari. That was his name. And the story behind Gopinath Pujari is when one time Gopal Bhatta was traveling to visit Haridwar and offer his respects to that holy place. And when he reached Haridwar, there was a big storm. So in a nearby place, he took shelter of one Brahman's home. And that Brahman said they spent the whole evening just discussing topics of Krishna together. And when there was time for Gopal Bhatta to leave, he made a request. He said, I'm a fatherless Brahmin, and you're a very saintly person. If you give your blessings, perhaps my wife and I will be able to have a child. And I promise you, if a son is born, then that firstborn son, he will come to serve you later. So Gopal gave his blessings and went about his business. 10 years later, a knock on his door. And there's this young boy. And the young boy said, who are you? I've come here to serve you. He said, who are you? My name is Gopinath. Do you remember my father is the person who you stayed at the home of and you gave him his blessings, and my father's keeping his word. He's a Brahmin. I'm here to serve you for the rest of my life. So Gopal Bhatta took it as a providential arrangement, and he trained Gopinath, who became known as Gopinath Pujari, gave him mantra diksha, and trained him in all the details of deity worship. His whole life, Gopinath Pujari remained brahmachari. He had a younger brother whose name was Damodar, and Damodar became a grahasta. Damodar had 3 sons, and those 3 sons married, and the Goswamis of the Radharaman temple are descendants of those 3 brothers, who were sons of the brother of Gopinath Pujari. And so till today, that the whole of you've been to Radharaman temple, there's different residential quarters for the descendants of those 3 brothers. That's the Goswami family of the Radharaman temple. And we're going to see an image of one of those descendants shortly. During Srila Prabhupada's time, you probably know this history, because if you've read Lilamrita, you remember the name of Vishvambar Goswami. So when Prabhupada was still in the Vanaprastha stage of his life, he went to stay in Vrindavan, and he was staying at a distant place up on a rooftop practically, and it wasn't such a nice place. Vishvambar Goswami had developed, that was in that Goswami line at Radharaman. Vishvambar Goswami developed a lot of appreciation for Prabhupada, and he was recognized, just as Gopal Bhatta was recognized as the leading personality of deity worship, Vishvambar also. So Vishvambar had a relationship with the other Goswamis in the other principal Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu temples. So at the Radha Damodar temple, the Goswami there, he made an arrangement so that Prabhupada could stay in those 2 rooms at the Radha Damodar temple. Vishvambar did that. It was Vishvambar Goswami who oversaw the installation of Krishna Balaram and Radhasham Sundar and Gaurnitai. Very, very close appreciative of Srila Prabhupada's gift to the world. And following him, Vishvambar Goswami's son Padmanabha Goswami similarly has been a well-wisher of ISKCON. He's still there. He's elderly, and his son is going to take his service over after some time. Sounds a little different. But Vishvambar Goswami. So from the same line of, so there's a close connection between ISKCON and the Radharaman temple. There's a close connection between Gopal Bhatta Goswami and the other associates of Vrindavan. Now we're going to show some images of the Radharaman temple. Padmanabha Goswami, during some years ago, he was making tours of ISKCON centers describing the worship of Radharaman. They have a whole book that describes how the deity should be dressed almost every day of the year. Specific colors, specific ornaments, some specific festivals, sometimes riding on the back of an elephant, not a live one because the deity is quite small, but very, very detailed, very elaborate, very exquisite, very expensive deity worship. So here's one such image. Another pictured here. There's no Radharani, unlike the other Goswami or followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu deities, because the deity of Radharaman manifested directly from a Shila. And the worshippers in that tradition don't worship Radha along with the Shila. So what they do is, by the side of Radharaman, there's a silver crown that is accepted as Radha, and a separate canopy above that silver crown, honoring Radhas by the side of Raman. So Radharaman, or Radharaman, the lover of Radha. He doesn't hold the flute in the same way that we normally see one hold the flute, deity of Krishna. But the features, although the deity is quite small, as you can see, the features are very intricate. His smile, his eyebrows, the self-manifesting Radharaman. he holds his flute in his left arm, like you see here. Another close-up image. So over to his left or to our right, that's the Radharani crown and the canopy above the Radharani's crown. And very, very opulent. Now, in Vrindavan, it gets really hot, like 40 plus degrees centigrade in the summer. It starts in April. Mid-April, the Vrindavan Gurukul goes on vacation because it's too hot. And the Shringa Chaturdasi happens sometimes just like we see, sometime in May. So it's really hot. So on the appearance day of Radharaman, they have something like 50 liters of milk and other substances, and they perform the bathing. But they have this arrangement in the fan system up above. There's a disbursement of water on his appearance day when they're doing the Abhishek, and it's so hot that water sprinkles all over everybody that's in this hot space. Because if you've been there, it's like a small space, not like Hare Krishna temple assembly room. It's quite a small space, so everyone gets sprinkled with water from the ceiling fan. Here's the Abhishek on Radharaman's appearance day. Behind is one of the descendants of that Goswami, the three Goswami families. Gives you some idea, seeing the face of that pujari, the size of the deity, not large. I mentioned this yesterday, I think it was yesterday, that there were some skeptic scientists from Europe that heard the deity was a self-manifesting deity, so they asked permission from the pujaris. Can they examine the deity to see if the deity is carved? And they found no evidence of the deity being carved. In fact, they found that in the backside of the deity, I haven't seen this, but I know ISKCON devotees that they have a relationship. There's a friendship, natural friendship with the pujaris there. And the backside of the deity, there's the bulge of the Shila from which the deity Radharaman was formed or manifested. So a self-manifesting deity, indicating Krishna reciprocates with the love of his devotees. Now, how much love for Krishna did Gopal Bhatta have? Who can say? But his Damodar Shila manifested as Radharaman out of his love. A few other things. One of the other literatures that we don't find his name mentioned is Chaitanya Charitamrita. What we do find in Chaitanya Charitamrita is Krishnadas Kaviraj was also feeling very humble, and he was being asked by the Vaishnavas to compile the life of Lord Chaitanya, Chaitanya Charitamrita. So he wouldn't do that without getting the blessings of all the Vaishnavas. So when he went to Gopal Bhatta, he made the request, and Gopal Bhatta said, "You have my blessings on one condition. Don't mention my name." So he liked that, not being in the front, being in the back, and being of service to all the Vaishnavas and inspiring the Vaishnavas, and deep, profound love for Krishna. He spent some time also at Radha Kund. There's a temple of Radharaman, not the original. This original Radharaman is the only remaining deity of the Goswamis still in Vrindavan, because the other deities were taken to Jaipur and then Madan Mohan to Karoli. But the deity was so small, out of fear that some invasion, they were able to hide him easily. So he is still there, the original deity form. So Gopal Bhatta wrote several books. Mainly they're commentaries on things and expressing, similar to what Hari Bhakti Vilas does, how to live the life of a Vaishnava. Although literary contribution wasn't his primary contribution, this worship of Krishna in this Radharaman form is the primary one that he's known for. And, continuing in this way, continuing the line of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu intact, because he was younger. So the next, by some divine arrangement, and giving his association to Srinivasacharya, Lord Chaitanya wanted that, and so that's what happened. So this is one of the important associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu who appeared to give Braja Prem, and Gopal Bhatta was one of them. His uncle, I mentioned his initiating, his Diksha Guru was Prabodhananda Saraswati. Prabodhananda Saraswati, he also moved to Vrindavan. The Bhajan Kutir of Prabodhananda Saraswati is found right behind the Kaliagat. Many of you who have been to Vrindavan, you know where Kaliagat is. It's a very close walk. It's the closest place of Krishna's pastimes to our temple, Krishna Balaram temple. And right behind, if you go right behind the Kaliagat, from where the Jamuna used to flow in that direction, is his Bhajan Kutir. And he wrote two wonderful literatures, Chaitanya Chandramrita and Vrindavan Mahimamrita, or something like that. So it's just this Sanskrit, long verses, exaltation of glorification of Lord Chaitanya with total abandon. He's a wonderful author. And he also made his residence, although from Sri Vaishnava upbringing, the brother of the chief priest, he became an ardent worshipper of Krishna in Vrindavan. He loved Krishna very much. And so his nephew, Gopal Bhatta, became one of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, and they spent the rest of their life in Vrindavan. Gopal Bhatta lived for 42 years total in Vrindavan. This manifesting of the Radharaman deity, when he was just 42 years of age. So in his 50s, 60s is when he left this world. But imagine, 42-year-old young man, and your Shalagram Shila turns into a Krishna form. How strong is the devotion of such a personality? And how kind is Krishna to reciprocate with him? So there is something on the life of Gopal Bhatta Goswami and the appearance of Radharaman. So can we hit the light switch and see if there's some discussion? Hearing about our, even just when we have our festivals and we do our rituals and procedures, one of the things that we do is recite Mangalacharana. Mangalacharana is just saying the names and the pranam mantras of these great personalities. And just by doing that sound vibration is so purifying. So we do it again and again because it creates auspiciousness. Just hearing. What we've just spent, whatever half an hour, 45 minutes, whatever it is, the sound vibration is Very special. I was having great happiness preparing and now speaking, and it's not the same as, but non different than at the same time chanting Hare Krishna. I mentioned this. I like this little statement. Prabhupada, speaking about the starting of the Hare Krishna movement, it says from the chanting of Hare Krishna, it created an atmosphere of auspiciousness right there in New York City. You remember from his arrival prayer, while still on the Jaladuta. How is this going to be possible? These people are so much filled with ignorance and passion. How are they going to understand the message of pure goodness? Mission impossible. But he had great faith in the power of the sound vibration, and that made it possible. The purification from the sound vibration made it possible for that which is totally transcendental to be awakened, the consciousness be awakened through that sound vibration. People so covered. And look at his audience in the beginning. Really covered. Totally covered young people. But the sound vibration relieved them of that covering enough that they could take shelter of a life of commitment to the personality of Godhead Krishna, who they never heard of before. Very powerful. So hearing these descriptions of our great acharyas, as we did earlier today and now this evening, tomorrow again, Madhavendra Puri, it's not just like a history lesson. It's purification, creating auspiciousness in the atmosphere and in our hearts. Let's see if there's any discussion. Ayurvedic tea. Anything? Okay. Okay. Well, Hare Krishna. Gopalbhatta Goswami ki, Shri Shri Radha Raman ji ki, Gaur Premanandi.